Hey, community groups. We are back with the Enneagram talking about the Enneagram type 5 today. But before we get into that number, because we are over halfway through now in our study of the Enneagram, I thought it would be a good opportunity to remind ourselves of some of the rules as we're engaging with the Enneagram, as well as some of the pitfalls that we want to avoid as we move forward in learning and applying the Enneagram to our lives and our relationships. So, Emily.
Yes, I think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it's very typical right around now, a couple weeks into studying this, for people to get really gung ho and go a little overboard on the type everyone in my life, which is totally natural. And doing it in your head or privately is not a bad thing, because you're learning to see things in people, which is good, and you're learning to value certain things about people, which is also good. But to remember to be cautious in not typing other people to their face.
Yeah.
Especially like in your groups, it's going to be super, super hard to not be like, oh my gosh, you're totally a 5. You do this and this and this all the time.
Right.
But when you do that, you steal their ability to check in with themselves, which is what the Enneagram is all about.
Right.
That journey for themselves.
Yeah. And they might feel like, oh, well, I guess I am that. And it could almost inhibit their further discovery if that's not who they actually are.
Yeah, and especially if you play like a prominent role in their life, they're going to take your opinion with a lot of weight. So even if you're right, like even if you know 100% that they're that number, still take caution, because again, you're taking away that journey for them. That even if they go through each number each week and they think they're that number each week, that's still their journey.
Yeah.
And it's still up to them to get to that number.
Yeah.
So don't take it from them.
That's good. What else?
Also, again, now that you know some stuff about yourself and perhaps about your significant other or the people that you're around the most, be careful not to use this perhaps as a weapon. Oh my gosh, you're acting so 9 right now. Or as an excuse. It's okay. I'm a 1, so I can go this, I'm just in my oneness right now. I would say take it out of arguments entirely unless you're willing to look at yourself.
Yeah.
And see how you're acting and you're behaving and perhaps check in with yourself. Other than that, I would really caution you to take it out of arguments and situations.
Yeah.
Because it's a personal tool. It's not, you're not learning all this knowledge so that you can go make everybody else better.
Yeah. Maybe key to that is if you're in conversation with someone about it or they're still trying to figure it out, instead of making statements to them, maybe just ask questions.
Yep.
So that they can be thinking about it rather than just telling them.
Yep. Yeah. Also, kind of in the vein of people not having their number figured out quite yet, is that is totally fine. And if, say, you hear the sermon on a Sunday and you're like, I'm not sure that quite fits, it's okay to sit with that. It's okay if the stereotypes don't 100% fit you. If you're like, I thought I was this number and now I'm not so sure. There's a lot more nuance to numbers, and there's a lot more personalness to finding your number than just, do you hit these 10 stereotypes?
Right. And remembering when you're getting confused to take all of the behaviors out and just go back to that motivation. What's the motivation behind that?
And to remember that you are going to have parts of each of these, because it's not like 4s own creativity and they're the only ones who are creatives. Right. And it's not like 5s are the only people who seek knowledge. And so it can be easy to be like, well, I also like to learn things, so maybe I am a 5. To allow yourself to look more comprehensively at the whole and then maybe you can see better which one you're just the most dominant in.
Yeah. Good.
Does that help?
Yes.
Cool.
I think that's helpful. So today we're getting into the type 5, and this is a big shift in our Enneagram journey because we are moving into a new triad. We're moving out of the heart triad and into the head or thinking triad, which also has a different underlying emotion as well. So what is the triad for the 5?
Okay, 5 triad is the thinking triad, which is also known as the fear triad.
Mm.
So 5, 6s, and 7s, what is underneath the surface for them is fear.
Okay.
Based on, I think, your personal history, you're going to be more or less aware of that fear. I think a lot of 5s would say they're not afraid. I think a lot of 7s would say they're not afraid. 6s tend to be a little more in touch with it, but still I've met a lot of 6s who have no idea how afraid they actually are, or just how easy they can step into fear.
Yeah. So the 5 is called the investigative thinker or the investigator. What are some of the things we should know about our thinkers?
Okay, so let's do first what 5 should know about themselves.
Okay.
So 5 should know that they have this perhaps like a gauge all day of their energy resource. Their almost like a gas tank where, different drivers pay more or less attention to their gas tank.
Yeah.
Some people run it all the way to empty and are surprised when they stall on the side of the road, whereas other people are more aware. I like to use the example of my dad, who is a 5. When he was teaching me how to drive, he told me when I get to half tank, go fill up with gas.
Yeah.
So I thought everybody did that. Not everybody does that, as I found out with my husband, who twice stalled on the side of the road because he just wasn't paying attention. So I feel like that's kind of a good metaphor for 5s in that they're more aware of how their energy is being depleted throughout the day, and so they're going to withdraw and try to refill that.
Okay.
So they're aware of what social interactions or work, even just engagements, they're aware of how much that depletes their tank, and so they're going to withdraw before they get empty.
So what happens if, for whatever reason, they're getting to half tank, then they only have a quarter tank, and they're not able to withdraw? I mean, then what?
Good question. I would assume that that's when that fear and that angst start to come in.
Okay.
But I feel like 5s, because they pay so much attention, they're more likely to not say yes to things that are gonna get them that low. Or they might just check out and go into the other room.
Yeah.
Or they might just leave.
Yeah. So to back up a little bit, kind of on that point, as you can see, we don't have a 5 guest here.
True.
And it's not because we don't know any.
Yes.
And it's not because we didn't ask any 5s to be here. So that's not surprising, right?
No.
That we don't have a 5 here talking with us. Why shouldn't that be surprising?
Well, so yes, if we did have a 5 here, it would take a lot for them to be here. A lot of energy, a lot of resources, a lot of perhaps wanting to prepare ahead of time, which is fine. You're not going to find too many 5s that would just be gung-ho, put me in there.
Yeah.
And so it's not like they couldn't be here.
Right.
5s can do anything. So it's not like 5s can't be in front of camera. Most 5s are going to not want to be. Yeah. And so they're probably going to measure that. How much is it going to cost me? How much is it going to be worth it? Kind of
the
a
risk
thing.
involved.
And just be like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Or they won't even get to that part of it. They'll just be like, no.
Yep.
Like,
Just know.
just know.
Just know. They already know it's going to cost too much.
So that's something 5s that you can know about yourself.
To know about yourself.
What is?
Also to know that emotions are hard for you. Your own emotions are hard for you to label, hard for you to allow, hard for you to access. But if you also consider that emotions are information. So emotions aren't facts. Emotions are come and go, so they can feel super uncertain, perhaps like unpredictable. So a lot of 5s are like, emotions are not trustworthy. Yeah. So let's push them down. Let's not deal with them. Let's deal with facts. Let's deal with situations. Let's plan. But if you learn to start to consider that emotions are also information and that they can help you process what's going on, that perhaps what's going on around you, those feelings deep down inside need to be processed.
Yeah. They can be useful.
They can be useful, yes. So it might take you all day to figure out what you're actually feeling, but to encourage you to take the time to do that.
Yeah. So I have a daughter who's a 5, and I got permission to talk about this beforehand, so I'm not violating anything. Good. But she went through the book, The Road Back to You, with someone, and after she had finished it, we were on a walk and talking about it and talking about this subject of emotions, and making the observation that when we're in a conversation, if there's emotion that comes up for her, you can see this switch and the conversation's over. Like, we're not going any further with it. There's kind of this like shutdown mode. And so as we were talking through that tendency, and I was asking her about that, she was like, because I don't understand emotion. Like, I don't know how to navigate through it. I don't know how long I'm going to feel that way. I don't know what's going to happen if I just let myself be emotional. And so she said, I just shut it down because, and which makes sense if there's something with emotions you can't logically just think through and map out. And so understanding that about her is really helpful for me to know why she would shut down in those places, to say it's okay that you're having emotions, or to give her space to navigate through that a little bit with more compassion.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of leads into what we should know about them. And so 5s really value feeling confident, to the point where they probably won't participate in something or try something unless they feel they can do it, or they understand it, or they know about it. And so for a different type who perhaps doesn't really care, it's really important to know how much they value being confident in something, and feeling like they understand something. So that might look like not throwing things at them on the fly and expecting a response.
Yeah.
But rather, okay, they're going to want to be able to look into this, so perhaps I give them time ahead of time to look into this.
Yeah.
The other thing we should know about them is how much they value privacy. Privacy and independence. So if you think about how they're divvying out perhaps energy or time or social interactions throughout the day, they're divvying that out because they're paying attention to their meter. It's similar in their privacy in that they're going to be very selective who and what and when they share personal information with you. And so to respect that in not sharing that further with other people is super important to your 5s.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads us into how to love them. Those are kind of we've kind of talked about ways to love them throughout. But a specific way to love your 5 would be to give them that time ahead of time. When you need an answer from them, give them time to research, time to look into it, time to even get in touch with their feelings. It's going to take time, so give them extra time. Give them a heads up before you're requiring something of them. Give them
Yes.
the details that you need from them. They don't like expectations. But when you give them a lot of details about what you're expecting from them, then they feel like they can confidently do it.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
it the right way. And
Mhm.
yeah, those are great. And again, I think learning about the 5 has been really the most valuable takeaway for me as a parent,
Mhm.
of being able to know if there's a conversation or a topic that's could be, challenging, or to give her a heads up. Hey, I want to talk to you about this. Can, you know, can we talk about it this evening? And giving that time for processing, because it's not going to go anywhere if it's just putting her on the spot. And also, another thing of knowing about the energy, and being aware of the drain of that in social interactions. It used to be so frustrating for me because we would do like family game night, and she would come, but she wouldn't participate all the time in playing the game. She would sit on the couch, and it would be like, you're just sitting there, you're not participating. Like, why don't you just play the game with us? But then through this, finding out that her coming and sitting there and being with us, that was the point for her. Like, that was showing she cared, and she was putting an effort towards that. And so now being able to look at it through that lens, and being like, hey, so glad you were here spending time with us and being here, and acknowledging that there was effort in that.
Yeah, that you could also interpret that's her loving you guys by showing up.
Yeah.
Because that's one way that 5s love people, is by showing up.
Anything else that you have on the 5 that is essential for us to know?
I think it's important to know for 5s that we should invite them to be social, and not push them to be social.
Okay.
I think it's really important for your 5 to know that you care and you want to be with them.
Yeah.
But also that you understand if it's just not in their wheelhouse that day. And to not take it personally, and to not write them off your list of friends if they're not the ones who are always there with you.
Yeah.
Just still reach out to them and love on your 5s, because 5s are really cool. If you can dig into a 5's mind, they're fascinating.
I agree. 5s are great. So we are going to let you get into your discussion with your group. You are going to be looking at the character of Nicodemus tonight, and I think you'll be able to see some of these 5 qualities in him, and how he progresses throughout the gospel when we see him, and how he truly displays God's wisdom and truth to the world, which is when 5s are living into the abundance of who God has made them to be. That is what they bring in this world, is his wisdom and his truth. And it's beautiful to see. So give your 5s a hug, and then let them go to their rooms. But enjoy your talk together, and we will be back next week looking at
6s.
Emily's number, the 6. So have a great week. We'll see you next time.